Our spring tour in Germany, 20 City Spring Tour, was canceled, followed by summer festivals that were canceled both in the United States and in Germany.
Ethical Brew has been closed down due to the pandemic like everyone else, as is my personal business.
Everything else is like gone. All the other work is gone. And
really done anything but grocery shop, which I've become very good at.
This year we've struggled with underwriting. It makes sense businesses out there are struggling and don't have the extra money to advertise.
Thanks for the opportunity to tell you about it.
Hi everyone, and what I miss the most, my biggest challenge during COVID, is I miss seeing you.
Zoom can't detect my microphone. My default filter has changed. Also all these amazing things I never thought I would have to learn, right? Because I would just say things like, well, Eben's got that.
My name is Ellis Paul.
Hello, Sonia Disappear here.
Hi, I'm Jess Vanna, founder music director of MVY Radio on Martha's Vineyard.
Hello everyone, this is Perry Stein, Beth Stein from Ethical Brew.
Hey everybody, it is Jess Frazzi here.
Hey everybody, Joe Crookston here.
Hey everybody, my name is Izzy Hiltai. I'm a singer-songwriter based out of Western Massachusetts.
Hello music lovers, this is Dan Godfrey, treasurer of NERFA.
My name is Justin Nordell and I am the executive director of the Philadelphia Folk Song Society.
Over the last year, I have had the privilege of participating in the planning of NERFA 365.
Reassessing and trying to share information and Zoom discussions and content around artist and venue needs, specifically during a pandemic.
Some news about the Northeast Folk Alliance Mentor Program. Biff Kennedy and I have been working very closely with the programming committee at NERFA to put together a year-round online mentor program and sign up to meet with, to have conversations with, to learn from, and get support from mentors in our community. Right now, it's essential. We all have so many questions as we move forward in the uncertainty. So we look forward in early December to rolling out this online mentor program. Stay tuned. If you would like to be part of it, we would love to have you. So the NERFA Mentor online program coming soon. Take care, everybody, and be safe.
There are already a number of ways that you can connect with people. Most of us are familiar with Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, but what we're looking to do with 365 is a little different.
As has always been the case in NERFA, one of the most impactful ways that we all grow together is through sharing with our peers. There's immense value in discovering how a fellow musician, presenter, or other music professional is meeting the challenges of furthering their careers, especially in these changing times. NERFA 365 is planning to host a number of opportunities for groups of peers to gather together to reconnect with old friends, share stories of the successes and challenges brought on by the pandemic, and to learn from each other.
There's lots of songwriters at NERFA who want to hear what you're doing. There's a lot of venue owners that want to hear what you do, radio people that want to see you do it in a tiny little hotel room where you cannot help but be, in the moment.
I was brought on to the NERFA programming committee last year to plan workshops and panels dedicated to diversifying our community and member base, with hopes of being a more inclusive space for all types of people. This year, we're still actively taking steps to do that.
One of the key components of NERFA's success over the years has been the level and professionalism of the panels and workshops that we've offered. It's always been our goal to strive to present to you ways to increase your proficiency in the ways that you are presenting yourself, in the ways that people perceive your product, in the way that you can market yourself, and to do our best to give you the tools to get in front of and impress every person that you perform in front of.
As part of NERFA 365, NERFA is going to be offering monthly juried showcase opportunities. That is right. NERFA is going to be able to present you in front of presenters like me and so many others of my colleagues to be able to have your music showcased for us so that we can find ways to present you perhaps digitally in a virtual or digital concert venue or in person when we're able to do that again.
I really love NERFA a lot and love helping them out any way I can.
This place, NERFA, is the right place to go out, meet people, create friendships. I'm not just saying connections, but create friendships and community around your music and learn how to be better at doing it. Not just with business, but with songwriting.
We're in the early phases and we've got a whole lot of hurdles to jump. We are absolutely dedicated to serving you, our community, and the people that we care about.
And here we are. Hello, everyone. My name is Dan Gottfried, and it's my pleasure to welcome you all to Exploring Opportunities in the Pandemic, the first panel being offered by NERFA 365. NERFA is the Northeast Regional Folk Alliance, an affiliate of Folk Alliance International. We strive to provide musicians, presenters, and other music professionals from Toronto to the Maritimes and down to Washington, D.C., with the information, tools, and networks that lead to success. A couple of announcements to make, and then we'll get started with the panel for tonight. If you have a question during the course of the presentations, they can be submitted online, and in order to ensure that the panel gets to the material at hand, they probably will be held until the end of the meeting, at which point we'll have some question and answer time. Please like and subscribe this video and click the bell you'll see below. This is the final month to get your 2020 tax-deductible donations in, and we would appreciate it if you considered us so we can continue pursuing our goal of providing professional services to enrich and benefit the entire roots music community of artists, presenters, promoters, DJs, and industry professionals. And finally, in 2 weeks, November 17th, NERFA will have our second panel aimed at the venues, coffee houses, and house shows as we explore producing streaming videos. We're very pleased to have representatives from Signature Sounds, Cafe Lena, and the Boston Area Coffee House Association participating in this roundtable discussion. Don't miss it. So tonight is our first time coming together online to learn together after all this time of social isolation. I, for one, am really excited to get started introducing our stellar panel, Genevieve, Glory Reinstein, Steve Sharp, and Antje Duvakat. Antje was originally born in Germany and transplanted to the US as a young teen. She began to hone her observational skills through a lens of biculturalism when she picked up a guitar during that move. Some years later, the confessional folk of Dar Williams and Annie DeFranco gave her license to share her observations, no matter how personal, in her first emerging songs. She has never let go of that tenet of vulnerability. Antje has extensive touring experience. She's a compelling live performer and has been invited to play top festivals, including the Newport Folk Festival, Mountain Stage, and the Kerrville Festival. In addition to music, Antje also works as an animator, having created music videos for The Toad, The Wet Sprocket, Dar Williams, Liza Gilkison, Martin Joseph, Elliot Bronson, and Laurie McKenna. And she leads a yearly fan volunteer trip to Guatemala. She also occasionally serves as music ambassador on humanitarian projects run by Let Yourself Trust, the nonprofit organization of fellow singer-songwriter Martin Joseph. Genevieve has 20 plus years as a touring singer, songwriter, author, wildlife photojournalist, and environmental educator. She is a Renaissance woman. You've likely heard her music and voice in ads and TV shows, or come across her photojournalism in places like National Geographic and Travel and Leisure. Her edutainment company, Late Shift Media, focuses on the intersectionality of art and science and finding creative solutions to address environmental and social issues. Our third panelist, Glory Weinstein, had a long career in music education before going on to study music business at Berklee College of Music in Boston, under the tutelage of George Howard, founder of Rykodisc Records and co-founder of TuneCore, who's also a music attorney and an associate professor at Berklee. Glory then started a company, Mallett's Bay Music, to help promote independent singer-songwriters. Then in 2016, she took over Song and Film. Song and Film was one of the first one-stop song licensing agencies. The catalog continues to grow with new singer-songwriter signings and collaborations with small record labels, producers, publishers, and management companies. Their clients include Netflix, AMC, Fox, ABC, NBC, CBS, and Hallmark, to name just a few. Steve Sharp, our final panelist, has over 5 decades long in the music industry. He's worked in nearly every aspect of the business. In 1991, after nearly 20 years as an independent record producer and head of A&R at Private Stock Records, he launched his own management and consulting firm, Steve Sharp Entertainment, in a joint venture with legendary music publisher Freddie Bienstock, and later with Carolyn Bienstock at Carlin America, ultimately rising to senior VP creative in addition to signing songwriters, purchasing and working catalogs, and placing thousands of songs in film, TV, and commercials for Carlin. Steve has managed many highly successful record producers and film composers, as well as licensing indie music to all platforms. Recently, in response to Carlin America's sale, Steve expanded his company, SSE, to include consulting to the publishing industry with Jamie Records of Philadelphia. Steve is also a founding member of the Music Managers Forum US and a member of the Recording Academy. As you can see, all of our panelists have a lot to offer as we go searching together for new opportunities in these challenging times. So let's get started. Our first topic is connecting with and maintaining your audience in the absence of live touring, something I think we've all become familiar with in recent times. So if anyone wants to just jump in, we're ready to go.
I'll jump in. Newsletters and social media and Patreon have been huge. Just essentially staying involved and connecting with people and posting and letting people know what you're up to as much as possible, bringing them into different areas and different aspects of what you do, not just the music. So you kind of get to know people on a different level than you were when you were just touring. Yeah, and I've been finding that the best thing to do is to just keep yourself out there and reaching out to people. I mean, we all have to keep those ties, and the best way to do that is to continually keep the communication lines open. And so I found that newsletters with updates and even doing live, like little live stream videos and things like that, just so they realize you're still alive and you're still connecting and you still want to see them and you still want to be want to maintain a community. I don't know, Anja, what about you?
Yeah, I don't know about you, but I've been in touch with my fans probably more than ever, because I have more time than I did before. Before I was driving and getting to the next gig, and now I'm home, and this computer thing is really, technology is the way we're now in touch. But it's been kind of a gift because I'm in touch with more people across the nation and the world than I ever have been before. And there's been some drawbacks with trying to perform online, which is that it's just less personal in some ways. It's harder to connect with the audience. So some of my sort of like goals have been to try to, in lieu of like audio quality or things like that, I've been trying to give a little bit more of myself, like make it personal. So when I'm doing an online show, for example, I'm really trying to like let people know how I'm doing and like maybe sort of like even provide a forum to talk about how everyone is. And like, I definitely make sure I pay close attention to the comments so that people get something out of it. Cause it's not a live show. The audio, the visual, everything is so sort of flat. So I try to sort of compensate for that by being sure to be really in touch with the people and really personal and talk more and still play music, of course.
It's so true. It is. There is something that's really nice about it, that you have that, whereas when you are normally driving between things and you don't have as much time to actually interact with your fans on a personal basis, and you only get really those moments on stage. With this, it's now, we don't have those stages and those driving things, those driving hours on end. You have more time to dedicate to actually building a more intimate relationship with people and finding a connection also in different ways, not just through the music, but finding that you have other stuff in common and getting to know each other, which is really cool.
Yeah.
I'm curious. One of the challenges I know a lot of musicians face is you mentioned Patreon before, and it's sometimes hard to start asking people to sponsor you. How have you overcome that kind of hesitancy people feel and begun down that path? You mentioned it before, Jen, and I think people will be interested in how you got there.
Oh gosh. Well, I think that's just, I grew up in New Jersey and the youngest of 5 kids. Like if I didn't ask for things, I wasn't going to get, if I didn't like shout, I wasn't getting anything. So, but it is really awkward. It has always been really strange for me to ask people to pay me for my art, whatever, but it's more or less, it's about just, for me, Patreon is a way of offering something that I couldn't offer just from the touring perspective. It's a way to offer things like behind the scenes stuff and actual one-on-one mentoring and coaching with people and, working with someone on a song that they're writing. So it's more of a different option. And I think because I present it as a different option and a different way to be involved. And also it's something that I feel like benefits them as well. Not that I'm amazing, but that they are individually amazing and can possibly be doing more with a lot of the creativity that they feel sort of stuck inside of them. And maybe a relationship with someone who's doing this for a living, it might be what they need to sort of pull it out. And so I feel like it's more of a partnership and almost like a mentorship and a friendship. So it's a different element and it offers something different. So I just put it out there and figured if people were interested in it, they would come find it. They would sign up. And that's what's happened. Is it wasn't just people that wanted to hear my music, it was people that wanted to learn how the stuff works. Like, how does my mind work, or how does my process work? And, how does Pro Tools work? How does, when I'm doing my photography, how do I get my photography out there? How do I decide to compose an image or what I write about, or, and so I found it's just another way to really connect and to give them a personal connection to something in a way that's meaningful to them on a different level. And so it wasn't that hard. I mean, I can't say I have like 100,000 subscribers, but the ones that I do have are involved. And, we have polls and like, all right, if we're going to do a live stream, what would be your favorite holiday music to listen to? Like I'll put a show together for you. And so I think they feel a little more vested interest. And so they're more likely to be involved because they get to be part of the process. So it hasn't been hard to ask because I feel like there's just more for them, I guess. I don't know, maybe I'm just being, maybe it's just wishful thinking. Who knows?
Do we just jump in or?
Yeah, sure, please.
So I think it's a little bit interesting that the music industry has changed so much over the last decade even. And I think things like Patreon and Kickstarter and things like that, when music stopped paying artists for a living because music became free more or less, those things kind of helped us overcome that hump of asking for a contribution so that we can keep doing what we do. And so like things like Patreon and Kickstarter are the model where your fans actually contribute directly to your continuing to be able to do that. And so like in a way we were already primed for being able to continue that trend during the pandemic of being closer to our fans, but also having them feel vested in helping us make a living and therefore make music ongoingly.
Yeah.
Wonderful stuff. And I have to tell you that as someone who's not a musician, but loves music, it really is a privilege to support musicians that you like, and that relationship that Jen, that you've both been describing, really is a rich one for the people who are contributing as well as for the musician. It's a wonderful experience. So let's go on to our next question. Ethan, you want to post the next discussion topic for us? I think we're going to do, creating new income streams as a musician. And we crossed it out and said creator. And I think there's something behind that. Who wants to start us off?
No.
Jump in, Jen. It's fine.
I just talk. If you don't shut me up, I just talk. So I think that's the beauty of all of the stuff that we do, is that as human beings, we're never just one thing. And if anything from this pandemic has shown us, it's that we are not just one thing, and that we have a variety of different interests and skills, and finding ways to channel that into productive means that will generate income. So, I mean, I'm a musician, but I'm also a photographer and I am a writer. And so I've kind of looked at all of the different ways and all the different skill sets that I can offer and have, and ways that I can continue to create, but that might not include music if that's the case. I'm a firm believer of the fact that we're all complex and we all have a lot of different interests. And if you're just focusing on one thing, you're doing yourself a disservice, because there's more to you than that. And there are other opportunities out there like licensing. So when I started doing the music stuff, knowing I didn't want to be, this is before the pandemic, I knew I didn't want to be on the road all the time. And I knew as an income stream that music licensing was a great way for me to continue creating and just letting the music go out there. And then eventually it works for itself. It's like you generate income. Essentially, if you get a placement in your sleep, you don't have to go anywhere. It's fantastic. So that was a great way in terms of finding different ways to put my music out there, but then also finding different ways as a creator that I could create and add value. So like I said, I write, I am a journalist as well for all intents. I mean, I do live streams for schools for education purposes and work on creativity workshops for kids. And I'll go into schools. I just started working with nursing homes and just doing live streams with nursing homes. There's a whole huge landscape out there of opportunity that I feel like all of a sudden that we might have not even realized before, because so many of us were just focused really on the getting out there and playing a show. But Steve and Glory will tell you there's a ton of opportunity with licensing. There's even with stuff being shut down, they're still doing animated films, they're still doing ads, there's stuff always happening. And you can always be doing a backlog, so you have it ready to go. So I just feel like the best thing you can do is embrace your creativity in all its forms during this time and channel it towards, I'm this. Well, let me look towards that and step away from that. It must just be this. I don't know. I mean, I know, Anja, you've also been in a very similar boat. So you've done much cooler things than I have, though.
No. I love hearing about your things, because every songwriter I know has other things going on. It's almost difficult to make it with just the one thing. And so there's really no one size fits all, though. I'm not sure whether a lot of budding singer-songwriters are watching this, but I just think there's so many ways to to use to like tap into your fan base and show them other sides of you. And I'm always weary of saying this is how you should do it, because it's so personal. And like, so for example, for me, I've been doing a lot of releases because I just want to like give people content more than doing online shows. But someone else might love to do online shows like every day. You know, it's like a style thing. But for me, I'm also interested in video, and I love making stop motion videos. And so this year I've been able to really pursue that craft. So like, the other thing, like this year's a really good year to get better at your craft, which is sort of a capital thing. Like you'll always be able to use that. So I'm sure no one is sitting on their hands this year, because it's a chance to explore things about yourself that you didn't otherwise. So I've been releasing little videos once every 2 weeks. And to my own surprise, a lot of other singer-songwriters that I know really like them, and they have been hiring me to make the music videos. And I never would have thought that I would be able to do that. And it's sort of like, sometimes you don't trust to make the next move until it's like you're thrown into it. And so for me, I was just sort of thrown into this new field that I never would have explored otherwise. But yeah, there's just a lot of different ways to do it. I mean, I have friends that paint portraits of people's dogs, like singer-songwriters, like people do. We have so many artistic outlets that it's really great to just explore them and not be shy about it. I don't know.
Yeah, I wonder, Gloria and Steve, do you find that people are coming out of the woodwork, kind of showing interest in licensing, who may not have come your way before, as this has progressed over the last year?
I would say for me, people always come out of the woodwork. This year isn't any different from any other year. I'm constantly receiving inquiries from artists, from managers, from the PROs like ASCAP, BMI, CSAC, to listen to new music. And other artists that I work with are also turning me on to people that they know that are looking for that. So I've personally signed quite a lot of new music this year, and because it was great stuff. I mean, when I hear something that really moves me and I feel I can place it, then I go for it. And it's all genres. I mean, I work in very, very diverse genres of music.
Glory, how about you? How's it been this year?
Yeah, I would concur with Steve. It's really hard to keep up with the submissions that come in. I'm always behind on that. But I've had some artists who maybe were in, a rock band in the 80s or 90s, and now suddenly they're thinking, oh, maybe I should try to, get my songs licensed. So I've had some of those more seasoned artists come to me.
Wow. Well, before we move on to our next topic, which will be a little bit more about licensing, I wanted to come back for a second and ask you, Jen, I know you've done some things created some opportunities for yourself in education. And I wonder if you could talk a little bit about that and how you went about it, so that people who might have that kind of interest can know how you set about pursuing that.
I raised a bug. That's how it started. Legit. The whole genesis of it was I literally raised a praying mantis when I was living in South Africa. I wrote a book about it for middle grade kids, and it turned into going to schools for author visits, which was going great until COVID hit and there was no school. And the schools were scrambling because they were trying to get school stuff sorted. They weren't even interested in any extracurricular or enrichment stuff. But I kept looking at it and fine tuning it and realizing that working with science, because I work in science and art, and they're really two sides of the same coin, that, integrating the two of them and showing that there are different paths to meander between, and also the creativity side and realizing that everybody is creative in their own unique way. And it's just about finding whatever your particular path is. And so I kind of just put them all together to create workshops to present to schools for kids they're all different levels. Some of them are like looking at, a lot of them deal with environmental. It's like solving environmental problems in the world, but by using your creativity to do so. And so it's a little bit of a mix of this art and the science. And They're catered to different ages, and they essentially walk you through their. Right now, I'm doing live streams with them, and we'll do I'll do a quick presentation, and then we'll do things like we'll present a problem, we'll split the kids into groups, and then the kids have to solve the problems as a group. And the whole idea behind it is that they work together and use their unique voice to contribute their thing to whatever the problem is that they're solving, and then they work as a team to quote unquote solve it. And so it's been a lot of enrichment stuff, reaching out to schools and saying, okay, guys, the kids need something that's a little bit different that they do. I mean, this is overwhelming for everybody, but especially for kids. And it's also a time when I think people are really, things like depression are setting in, anxiety is setting in. And it's an opportunity to give the school something that is unique and different, but that also might potentially inspire the kids in a different way. And remind them that every single one of them has value, and everyone, like, even though they're not together, there's still the possibility of working together on projects to solve things and to feel important and valued. And so that's really where that came from. Is it like started over here and went woo over, and like part of it is creating a song. If they want to do a fundraiser as part of their solution, and this person wants to write a song for it, and this one wants to do this and wants to be the promotion person, and this. It's really just investigating that whole thing for kids and letting them sort of find their own path. And that's not something that the schools have seen. And so that's really how it sort of happened, is they're like, oh, this is different. And she's got the background, so let her talk to the kids. I don't know if that was the best idea for them, but I'm still doing it. So.
Well, it really seems like an opportunity that's out there, and thank you for describing it in so much detail. I think that a lot of musicians are looking for those kinds of, things they can do that will allow them to, kind of expand beyond just what they're doing touring. And education certainly right now is in a tough spot, and connecting with educators and connecting with schools is definitely a way to get your music out there, but also to do some creative new things. So let's move on to our next topic, which I'm sure everyone is very interested in hearing about, which is licensing as an opportunity. And of course, we have two people here who are deeply involved in that. And I'm just going to open it up to you to talk about kind of some of the general, issues around licensing and how one would get involved with that, and especially I think aimed at people who maybe haven't pursued that opportunity in the past.
Well, I would say that everybody wants to have their songs in a TV show or a film, a commercial, in a game. There's so many places to go to do that kind of work. It's not that easy. Not everybody's music is what we call syncable. There's a lot of great music that I hear all the time from various artists, and I may personally like it, but it may not work or fit to what I'm getting asked for. I'm in constant contact with music supervisors on an hourly basis, and getting searches from them for music for their shows, for their films, for a commercial, and I hopefully will have the right thing to send them. And again, I work with a lot of independent artists in various genres, so I can really have a depth of reaching a lot of different people with the music that I represent. It's not always easy to take something on. I have to turn down a lot of music all the time that I think is good, but it just doesn't seem to fit in terms of lyric type of approach, vocal, sound-wise. There's a lot of different elements that go into the formula of what is going to make a great song or new song, really click. I mean, over the years, I worked with some very, very big artists back in my days at Carlin. I worked with AC/DC, James Brown, Billie Holiday, Bobby Darin, The Love and Spoonful, The Turtles, Genesis, yes, Kander and Ebb, Sondheim. I mean, it was all over the place. All kinds of great people. And when you have that kind of classic music, there's always room for it. There's always a place for it. It's somewhat easier to place because people want it and hopefully they'll have the budget for it. But when you're dealing with a brand new artist who has no licensing history, that's the challenge, to create and open those doors and work it to where people start to hear this music and feel that it could be right. I work with a hip hop artist out of Canada called Grand Analog, and have been for about 11 or 12 years. And between myself and their manager in Canada, Graham Stairs, who represents them up there, we've had like over 65 placements in films, television shows, commercials. And the lead singer just recently put out his debut record a couple weeks ago, and I landed the lead track on NCIS Los Angeles that's going to air on Sunday night. So that's going to be the beginning of a new phase for him, and really excited about it, and it's really great music. But again, it took a few years of working with that artist before we even got a placement. I mean, it takes a long time. When new artists come to me, they say, well, I only want to do a deal for 6 months. I just walk away. I'm not interested. I do at least a 1-year deal to start, but I hope it's going to be longer because it takes a while to really disseminate the music to all different kinds of people and work it on a very regular basis before it kind of catches on. And once it does, it can really fly. But then there are also times when you work with artists, and I've worked with a number of them, that it just doesn't click. It just doesn't happen. And it's not because it wasn't good, it just wasn't a right fit. I'm sure Glory can attest to that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've had songs where I thought, oh, I can license this. This is a great song, and I can't get it anywhere. And then other times I'll have a song that maybe was in the catalog when I took over, thinking, I don't think I can place this anywhere, and suddenly it's placed. So it's always a surprise. And I've been to various like sync summits and workshops with lots of music supervisors on various panels, and they'll even say, you know, they're soliciting music from people like Steve and I, and they, you know, narrow it down and they send it to the production team, and if not everyone is on board, it doesn't get licensed. So they might think, oh, this is the song for this scene or whatever, but the director, producer, whoever is on the team might not agree. So yeah, it's a challenge.
No, it truly is. I mean, a lot of people, I think, on the outside of this business thinks the music supervisor is the be-all, end-all. I mean, they're basically the gatekeeper that works with the producers and the showrunners of projects, and they don't always have to say. I mean, they'll bring music to the table, but it may not get picked, or somebody else wants to work with a friend of theirs that knows the producer, and they put their music in. I mean, there's all different things that can happen in the course of doing that. But there's nothing more fun and great to place a piece of music on a show and a TV show or a movie and hear it and see it and see it all jive together with you know, picture to music. It's an exciting thing. Every time it happens for me, it's wonderful. Actually, right now as we speak, I have a song that I found out today is on Young Sheldon, a great track from the Jamie Records catalog, the famous guitar slinger Duane Eddy, a wonderful instrumental from 1958 called Moving and Grooving that Lee Hazelwood produced. So I'm really excited. I'll be watching that later after the panel. But all kinds of things happen. But for me, I love working with new music. I love developing artists. But I also love working with the older catalog. And that's what's been a great thing for me, having left Carlin when Carlin was sold to another company and not having all that great classic music, to now work with some great vintage music and really being able to place it and have a lot of fun with it. It's been terrific.
So we have a question from the audience. If either of you want to address it, or if Anja or Jen, if you're familiar with this, which is there any advantage to being with BMI or ASCAP in terms of money for placements? Is there one that's better than the other, or?
Well, I can talk about it. First of all, BMI, ASCAP, and CSAC are the three main performance rights societies. They are only involved in collecting money based on airplay. Airplay on television shows, airplay on radio, airplay from streaming. They have nothing to do with licensing your music. They're the back end of it, performance end of it. So when we place a piece of music on a TV show, we get paid a master and sync fee, which is equally, same money split in half from the producers in the studio. And then about 6 to 8 months later, on your ASCAP, BMI, or CSAC statement, you're going to end up seeing a chunk of money associated with that song on that particular show. And it's the combined writer and publisher amount together. And no one knows what that amount is going to be. It's secret. It's magic. But I can tell you that they all pay differently. And many times there are like two writers on a song. One's with ASCAP, one's with BMI. They both get their statements, and one has made more money than the other. And that can be frustrating for writers who are working together. And there's no rhyme or reason. No one knows how they calculate these formulas. It's a very, very well-kept secret. I have many, many friends in PROs, and they will not give it up. No, they just don't really tell you how it's going to happen. So it's at the end of the day, it's mailbox money that comes in. But the more you have on TV rolling, the better. I also manage composers, so we're scoring movies and television shows. So in those cases, we're seeing a tremendous amount of back-end performance monies, because in a movie or a TV show, it could be anywhere from 60 minutes to 120 minutes of music. I mean, depending on what's going on, if it's wall-to-wall score, and that mounts up. And then all the times it gets played over and over on TV, especially shows like Hallmark. I just had a Christmas movie a couple weeks ago, Christmas in Vienna, that Natalie Bowman, who I represent, scored the film. And Hallmark owns their own channel. They bang the shit out of those movies. They play them day in and day out, and they keep getting played and played and played. So there's a lot of performance money that gets mounted up for those composers. They make a really good. All the composers who score TV and film, if they do it consistently, they're making very, very big. More than just artists that have placements in these projects.
Any specific advice you would give to people who are aspiring to begin to get their music licensed? How would they start that process? Understanding what you said before, Steve, that it's a really long process. What's the best way to get started, do you think?
Well, the best way is to reach out to people. I mean, reach out to licensing companies. There are many independent companies like mine and Glory's that exist now. When I started my licensing platform in 1993, a couple of years after I was at Carlin. So when I started it up, there were not a lot of independent licensing companies. It was mostly major publishers, major labels, and indie publishers pitching music. And so I was able to get in there early enough to meet supervisors and develop the relationships that I've now had for almost 30 years. Because I started doing it before my own thing with Collins. And it's very difficult. But let me give a shout out to my friend Rich Ezra, who's probably watching this, but he publishes the Film and TV Music Guide and the A&R 411. And it's music business. And it's a great resource because if you get that guide, the Film and TV Music Guide, it gives you every music supervisor who works within every studio and all the independent supervisors, and you can reach out and connect with them and send them. So the best way to really start this off, to answer your question, is to write a respectful email to any of these people or ourselves saying who you are, what you do, maybe put a few songs in the email. Do not send MP3 attachments. I'll delete the email. It crashes people's boxes. Send streaming links within the email and let us hear it. It may take a while before we get to listen to it and respond back, but that's the way to do it. So what you want to do is look and see who these companies are. But before you even send the music, research who they represent. What kind of music do they specialize in? And if it happens to be music that you write and you produce, then that's where you should try to at least reach out and make an inquiry to someone.
Gloria, you have anything to add? Yep.
Yes. You also want to know if the company you're reaching out to is exclusive or non-exclusive. Mm-hmm. And the other thing is, if you go with more than one non-exclusive sync agency, I tell artists, don't give the same songs to multiple sync agents, because we often get the same song searches, and music supervisors don't want to receive the same song from multiple people for the same song search.
Absolutely. They will shut down on you instantly.
Yeah.
And it's very unprofessional. I do only exclusive deals. And people who don't want to do that, I say, okay, go somewhere else.
Yeah, I'm non-exclusive, and I go back and forth about that, because that has happened to me once, where it was a music supervisor for advertising, and she said, "Oh, I got this song from another source." She wouldn't tell me who, of course. That's okay, but yeah, it's puts you in a weird spot. The other thing I wanted to add to what Steve has said is that when you do send music to sync agents, it's got to be well produced. I had to have a hard conversation with an artist that I really liked the song. I thought, oh, this would be great for Killing Eve. But it was a little pitchy. I didn't like the production of the song. I said, if you're really serious about this and you want to spend a little bit of money, you need to go into a studio and redo this. And I mentioned a producer that I thought would work well with her and that song. And she, at first she was defensive, and then she went ahead and did it, and now it's great. And so, yeah, and also, I don't know if this is a blessing or a curse, but having been a voice teacher for many years, I might like the song, but I don't like the voice. Yeah, it has to be well produced, and you want to make sure that when you record, ask your producer for the instrumental without the vocal, especially if it's going to be pitched to advertising and also stems. Steve and I came up with a little list. I don't know if Ethan has that anywhere, but Yeah, to not only have well-produced songs, but to affiliate yourself with ASCAP BMI or CSAC, which are in the U.S. If you're outside the U.S., then it's going to be something different. And I don't know why the U.S. has 3 and every other country has 1.
There's actually 4 now here, GMR, and I think there's a 5th one coming soon. But really, the main ones are ASCAP, BMI, and CSAC.
Right, right. Let's see, what else?
Can I jump in real quick as an artist with regard to this? One of the main things that I know of with regards to licensing is ensuring that your song is one stop, that it is as easily clearable as physically possible. Particularly if you have co-writers, you don't like a lot of these supervisors, and I'm sure you guys can vouch for this. They've got to turn these songs around on a dime. They don't like once a song has been like they pitch a song and they like it, they have to be able to get the stuff to them right away. So that song has to be clearable immediately. And if you have 4 people that wrote it, and 2 people haven't signed off on it, and you don't have one person who's the main administrator or the one stop, it's a pain in the ass, and people will, sorry for the language, but to pass you by, because it just makes their life just, as an artist, the best thing we can do is make their lives easier, because they are inundated with music. They have constant projects going on. It's over. I mean, I know, but I also know other music supervisors. They're overwhelmed. There's so much music coming at them. You want it to be one stop. You also want to make sure that you have all of your metadata tagged for your music. You need to have your name. You have to have your contact information in there. If it's a phone number, if it's an email, whatever, tag the song with the mood of the song, with the feel of the song, with what the song is about. Because when these guys get these songs, also, a lot of times if you put them in a catalog, it's a lot easier to do a search if you just throw in a keyword, and all of a sudden, all the songs that are sad ballads with a female singer will come up. It makes their lives easier, and that will make them like you more. So it's just it's like a common courtesy kind of thing. Like Steve was saying, don't send MP3s because you're going to blow up somebody's inbox, or the email might not even go through because it's an attachment. And a lot of companies have, even Gmail will have bars against. So find companies like Disco or Box.com or maybe Dropbox, but Dropbox is a pain.
I hate Dropbox.
Yeah. So Box, Disco. Do you guys use Disco?
I have my own system.
Okay.
Many years ago, before that even existed. So, and I can tag everything in it, but it's very important. But I do one stop. I mean, all my indie artists are one stop clients, and I vet every one of them before I decide to do a deal to make sure the publishing is correct and it's all, cleared and so forth. Especially with hip hop, I make sure this is all sample free hip hop. Because when you're dealing with an independent hip hop artist, there's no budget to pay for samples. It's very different when you're working with very big artists. I mean, back when I was at Carlin, I'd be placing James Brown all over the place, Gil Scott-Heron, all the Love and Spoonful, the Turtles, all that stuff. In those cases, there are multiple publishers involved. There can be some songs. I remember Missing You, we published, the John Waite hit. There were 4 publishers on that song. We were one of 4. So everybody had to come to the table, otherwise the deal fell through. And EMI had the master. But when you have something like that, there's money to afford to pay for all that. So when a supervisor is knowingly going after a famous song, a big hip hop track, a big classic rock track, they know that they're going to have to jump through hoops of stuff to get all the clearances, set up for that. But when you're dealing with very quick indie turnaround, it really has to be one stop. Or if it's not, you have to have all that worked out ahead of time. There are a number of artists I work with that work with third-party writers, and they have made sure in their deals that those people have signed off with the main artist, so it can be a one-stop situation. And in those cases, I'll pay the main artist the money that I collect, and they pay out the third-party writers. So there's no issues.
Yeah, same with me.
Right, but it can be complicated. But for me, it's got to be exclusive, because when I send music to the supervisors, they know I'm the only person that has that, and that's really important.
One of the questions we hope to get to, which is kind of related to some of the things you're bringing up, is it an advantage to have representation when you're trying to get into licensing?
Representation meaning management?
Professional, like have an agent or have someone who is kind of an expert in how to go about this process. A lot of what you're saying sounds like that would be a good thing for musicians, but they could do it on their own if they knew these things you're talking about.
Well, I mean, most musicians who are walking into this new field of licensing don't really understand it. I have to do a lot of teaching and explaining to get them to understand what it means and how it works. Some of the artists I work with have managers. Those managers have brought those acts to me. So they're managing their careers on all aspects, live, everything. An agent, the only times I ever deal with agents is with composers. I'm their manager. Some agents have both managers and some composers have both agents and managers. But artists don't. I mean, the only agents artists would normally have would be booking agents for live appearances. They have nothing to do with licensing music. That's a whole different field. So no, most artists these days don't have management because they're not at a level yet enough to make enough money to have one. Unless somebody just hears you and loves you and wants to dig in and and become your manager. I mean, that's happened many times over the years, but I think it's harder now than ever to break an artist, especially with what we're dealing with in the pandemic.
Mm-hmm. So, go ahead.
Sorry. And if an artist wanted to do their own pitching to music supervisors, that's very difficult. It takes years to develop a rapport with them and know all the ins and outs, and so I think it's best that you do find a sync agent to represent your music.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we are the gatekeepers. I did a panel about 7-8 years ago at South by Southwest called Gatekeepers: Tales of the Pitch, and I had some really big independent licensing people on the panel, and we had a lot of fun doing that panel. It was amazing, and the stories that went around. But again, we have developed over many years these relationships with these supervisors. The supervisor I got the placement with today for the Young Sheldon Show, Kevin Edelman and Ben Sokler. I've worked with Kevin for probably 28 years, on projects. He's done a lot of huge shows throughout his career. He's a wonderful guy, and sometimes we get lucky on something, and sometimes we don't. That's the other thing too. It's very disheartening when you get a request for a song, and then it gets knocked out at the last minute, either because of budget, or they decided they went with score instead of using your song. I've had that happen numerous times, as I'm sure you all have. So it sucks, but it happens, But when it sticks and it's in, it's great. Yeah.
Okay, let's move on to our last topic, and then we'll probably come back to some of this in the question and answer, because I saw some questions related to some of this. The last thing we were going to talk about today is projects to keep you engaged with others while socially isolating, and that kind of gets us back to Antje and Jen, just kind of, things that people can do. And you were talking about it a little bit earlier, and talking about some of the things with education and Antje with your animation. Let's just go crazy a little bit here and talk about some of the things that you've been doing and that you might suggest people think about.
I did have this thought, because we are at NERFA right now, at Virtual NERFA, And I've been to many NERFAs and also the National Folk Alliance. And I would say I did get a lot of opportunities out of it, like festivals and promoters hired me to play their shows. But one of the really valuable things that I think young artists don't always realize going in is your connections you make with other artists while you're there. And I think that the more we connect with each other, the more we all just raise the joint raft. And that has been so true during the pandemic. So like I have a friend named Natalia Zuckerman, and the minute the pandemic hit, she organized this online concert series where she conscripted all the artists she knows. And then every night there was online shows, and some large artists signed up, like the Indigo Girls. And they didn't have to do that, but I think they also feel like an allegiance to the community. And so the fact that, the fact that the Indigo Girls were playing meant that people would tune in. And so that really helped. And we all got so much more kind of collective visibility, and we were able to make money with tips and kind of get through this time. And so I think this time of collaboration is really valuable, and it's probably going to be at Capital going forward. So I've been doing a lot of projects with people. Like I did a video with Ellis Paul, who was in the intro, where we both filmed ourselves and we both sang, because we have the technology. And so we released a joint video, and this is like cross-pollinating so much during this time that I think when this is over, our fan bases will also have melded because of all this cross-pollinating, and that's really good for everyone. So I wanted to get that in because that's kind of what like Folk Alliance
It really is
all
a
about.
community more than anything, and it's we're social. You know, we're social animals. We need each other, and in a time like this, we need each other even more because we don't have the physical contact. We can't we can leave our houses, but not to actually like spend time really with people, and certainly not the way we did at NERFA. And co-writing is actually hilarious, doing it via things like Zoom and StreamYard, and getting involved in communities, like she said, with regards to, with Natalia, and Carl Wern does sort of an open mic on Wednesdays on his little Carl's community, and people post videos that they've recorded. And some of them are like, Neil Eckstein and I just did a video that was like a video that we put up there. And then other people will just do videos of themselves just singing in their house. And it's just people are seeing what's out there and sharing with each other and building that sense of camaraderie and realizing that we're all in this, we're all in this together, and it doesn't make a difference what your background is. Everybody's stuck in a pandemic. So it's also, I think, seeking out different areas where it makes a difference, because we have different avenues and we don't have the normal, quote unquote, normal channels that we're used to going through. It's seeking out different areas and trying to make inroads in that way, because like Anja said, you cross promote. Like I'm cross promoting obviously as an author, but they're also like, oh, you're a songwriter too. Well, blah, blah, blah. And, can you teach this? And I was like, sure, and it's making these connections with people in different levels and in different capacities than we have before. And also finding different avenues. I've started doing, it's funny, you talk like the music licensing. I've started doing music licensing tutorials for people where like just 5-minute things where I'll take a song that's in an ad and I'll pick it apart and be like, see the reasons why this would work really well for this, and sort of breakdowns of how, how an ad song works versus what you would have in a TV show or a movie, and the differences between, and like elements that are themes that are really poignant and topical and typical for licensing, and just stuff like that, where you're putting stuff out there and you're connecting with people and having conversations with people online, because that's really their option, and just building each other up and helping each other. And I think more than anything, that's what we need right now, and that's what's working. And at the end of the day, that's what's going to carry us through and bring us out of this much stronger and more well-rounded, I think, and with much deeper ties. I'd like to think. I don't know.
I think the audience is clearly with you on this. We're getting comments. Stuart Marcus just said, I've done a lot of Zoom song circles and met some incredible talents and made some great connections with folk societies and other presenters who tuned in. I think people are feeling what you're saying. It's a really rich time in this time of isolation. There's these rich opportunities to connect, and people are feeling it. It's a really good point. So I think we'll move to our questions and answers now. Does that sound good to people? Ethan just put up questions and maybe answers. So we had a question during the talk about licensing, and it's are covers more likely to get placements than originals? And what qualities help an original get chosen? Vibe, lyrics, genre, instrumental selections for dialogue, time. What are some of the factors? It's a hard question. Good.
Well, there definitely are cover songs that are easier to get. So, because you have to clear as the artist, you also still have to get the clearance to record it. You can't just. Yeah.
Or you can record any song that's been released. You can record.
But
there's no issue.
Submitting it to you.
But it's the people who own the publishing that hold the keys to the licensing card, not the people who have the master.
Right.
Because so many times, I always said this as being a big publisher for years. The publisher always wins, because I had so many songs I placed on television that were on cameras, meaning that the actors sang the song. So that means the original masters don't make any money from that. Or we place a cover version that the original master who owns that doesn't get that either. Whoever has the master has it. So covers can be very valuable. I mean, you hear covers all the time in commercials, on television shows, and movies. You know, generally there are people who just do covers, who record lots of covers all the time. And I think supervisors kind of know those people that they can go to that have a specific kind of artist that's done a particular song. I mean, I only pitch covers when I'm asked. It's not something I do on a regular basis, because I have a whole slew of covers that have been songs that are peeled off of records that I have with my artists. So then I'll pitch, and I have pitched a number lately. I haven't placed anything like that in a long time. It's mostly placing original music. But instrumentals is very important. Well, let me just say that you must have mastered instrumentals along with your mastered vocal versions. In this day and age, supervisors insist upon having both. And if you don't have both, you're not even going to be able to pitch the songs to some people. So it's very, very important to have that. So let's see what is this here? Yeah, I mean, metadata is the information that you can only tag on an MP3, and that's, you know, the songwriters, the publishing information, contact of how the supervisor can reach whoever sent the song to them, and that's really important. Some people don't need it as much as others. Some people insist upon having the metadata when it's sent to them. And that's time consuming. You have to really go through all that and put it into the files and upload it properly. My system does that. Certainly Disco has that ability, and there's probably others that do that too.
And WAV files won't save the metadata.
WAV
MP3s will, yeah.
You can't tag WAV files. No.
Right.
Or FLAC files. Oh, okay. Well, again, the question down here that I'm looking at, how would you recommend going about networking, finding the right people to hear your music for sync? Well, my recommendation is almost all the conferences that have been live, where you go and meet people. Last year, I did the NERFA panel with Jen. She was hosting it, and I was on it with a couple of other people. And I met artists at that. Now it's all on Zoom. The Sync Summit, I'm going to be speaking at that in January. It's going to be sometime in the first week of January. And there's going to be workshops and all kinds of things. So you need to really seek out these various conferences that exist and work it the same way you'd work it as if you were there in person. So,
Steve, what when are you speaking at in January?
The Sync Summit.
Sync Summit. Yeah, I was going to suggest that's a great place to meet all kinds of people.
Absolutely. I mean, I signed an artist earlier this year, April Eileen, who's from Nova Scotia, who I met at the Sync Summit on a couple songs, and I've met so many people. I've met composers that way, all kinds of things. I mean, again, networking is how you do it. It's really, really important. I've been networking for over 50 years. I know more people than I care to think of that I've met in all this time that I'm doing what I do. But that's how it works, you know. You meet new people, you develop relationships, and things come out of it. And sometimes they don't. But that's how it works. You know?
Yeah, go to syncsummit.com because Mark, who runs that, he has all kinds of things going on every week.
Yeah, I mean, it's great. There's another company that I did a talk with summer before this, Catch the Moon.
Oh yeah, right. Yeah.
They reached out to me to do a talk. I did a 90-minute talk, and there must have been a couple of hundred artists watching this thing.
Mm-hmm.
I heard a particular song right off the bat. It was Rhea Stevens' original Christmas song that I really loved. And I reached out to her after I did the talk, and I said, let me hear what you got. She played me a whole album of Christmas music. I signed her. 2 weeks later, I had 2 songs in Noel, which was the kickoff movie for Disney Plus with Anna Kendrick and Bill Hader. It was mind-blowing. That was the quickest I've ever signed somebody and had not 1 but 2 placements, you know, in a project. So I met her through there, and I met a whole bunch of other people that I've signed from the talk. It's been amazing. A wonderful singer-songwriter out of Washington, D.C., Wolf Larson, who I met through some of the people, and Nate and Kaylee Highfield, who are amazing. And through them and their producer, Rob Chiarelli, they have 2 record labels. I did a big deal with both labels, and out of that deal, I now have about like 10 acts that are just incredible.
So we did have another question that was raised that I wanted to get to before we run out of time, and it was directed at you, Jen. Someone is really impressed with your video quality and your like your great internet speed, and they're wondering what your setup is and how you manage to do that. It really is. I'm impressed too. I have some good equipment, but you look amazing. Maybe it's just you, or maybe it's the video. But tell us what you've done.
No, it is definitely not me. It's the video. I live with an AV person, and I'm an AV person, so of course I have a setup. There's a light like you would do for a photography shoot, and we've got a Sony camera, just a regular camera that I've plugged in and connected. So I'm actually using a legit a DSLR camera to stream, and then I've got the lighting set up. What's that?
Any particular one?
It's the A7, the Sony A7. Yeah, Ethan's a Sony guy. I'm a Canon girl, so it's a bit of a competition in the house. But I have an old Canon, so I haven't used it for any of the streaming. We just end up using his for anything I have to do. And thankfully, he also knows how to use all this stuff. So.
You look like a news anchor. Like
and today's weather will be. Yeah. Can I add something really quickly to what Steve was saying?
Sure, please.
So the woman who basically runs Catch the Moon is Kathy Heller. And actually, interestingly enough, I think that's how I found you, Steve. I think I was in the group.
Yeah.
That talk. Kathy does events throughout the year that she has like a full workshop thing that you can pay for. That's quite a bit of money, but it's truly worth it. They're just amazing. And she works with a group of people, and she knows a whole lot of people to help you through the process. But she also does like these 1 week challenges throughout the year that really kind of streamline and teach you a lot about music licensing in general, and get you to start writing towards sync if that's an area you're interested in. The Guild of Music Supervisors also has constant events that are free events. There's so much stuff that's, if you just do searches online, they're doing Zoom seminar like this, Zoom seminars, Zoom conferences. And there are quite a few of them that are free. And even if it doesn't mean that you meet the people, it gives you the names of who's doing what and what's going on out there and what they're looking for, so that you already know or have an idea of what to pitch towards as well. So it's the networking, and it's research too. It's figuring out what people do, who they represent in terms of what shows and stuff they work on, or what ad agencies they work with and what brands within that agency. Yeah.
I was on a Guild Zoom right before we did this tonight with Mexican music supervisors and Latin music supervisors.
I was supposed to be on that call too, and I missed it.
Speaking of Guild, you have to become a friend of the Guild. You can't become a Guild member unless you're a real music supervisor, but you can become a friend of the Guild of the Triam, and by doing that, it's well worth it. You get to see some of the most incredible panels. They've had them every week since the spring, and it's just been amazing.
Yeah.
So we've kind of gone full circle in that we've got a question up there now from Sarah King. She's saying, what are some ideas to help grow an audience? Staying connected with your current audience feels easier than building a new audience when we can't connect in person. We did address that at the beginning, but I think it'd be nice to revisit that and tell Sarah kind of some of what we talked about when we started out. Anja, maybe you want to jump in on this?
I had that exact thought when you announced this panel, because if it comes to just sharing what I've been doing, I have to be honest. Like, I've been, kind of reaping the rewards of touring for 20 years. And I learned the ropes from Ellis Paul, who is a singer-songwriter that's, I think, very grassroots type. Like, he tours a lot and he works really hard, and he knows all his fans by name, and he gives them time, and he's really generous with just like personal attention. And so I think that's also part of why I'm able to make a living during this pandemic, is because I've been touring so much and I've been kind and generous. I think I've been good to people. And so it's a little bit of karma perhaps is coming back around, because the people that are donating to my kind of like for my content now are people I know personally. These are people whose house concerts I played. And so I was thinking about this, like, what would I tell somebody who doesn't yet have that, fan base? That's actually kind of a tricky question. I don't even know if I know the answer, other than to say, like, have heart, because whenever we're back to being able to tour, like, every show you play is so much more than just that one show. It's like people who will be in your corner for a long time. And I think there's really just like two rules for me, being more of a grassroots model of singer-songwriter, which is one, just be nice to people. And two, keep working on great content and writing, like, work on your craft, like, that's been kind of my approach. Like, I'm not super political minded, I'm not super like business minded, but I'm nice to people and I try to really do my very best when it comes to making art. And so, like, I don't know how that would translate into the now. I suppose the making art part is easy now. Make the best art you can now, and then when the world comes back, I think that's when you can build an audience. I'm not sure how to build it in a vacuum. Maybe Jen, you have some ideas about that. Like, I don't know.
I think cross-pollinate, like you were saying before, several ways, one of which is to get involved in these different communities, like Stuart said, the Zoom open mics and the song circles. Be involved in areas that you are interested in, but you previously hadn't really been part of. I've branched out because I got involved with the Audubon Society, and then they're like, oh, you do music? What? And it's not that like I've now have 1 million fans because of the Audubon Society, but it's just that one more person who tells that next person who tells that next person. And it's just about finding different avenues to go down, and building your fan base. Well, I'm just right in terms of just be nice to people. That's the first thing. Just be nice. That helps. That's the first step. Keep creating your content, but also don't be afraid to step out into different spaces, and just start up conversations with people. And that's the beauty of social media. As horrible as I think social media can be, it can also be amazing. I survived in South Africa because I had access occasionally, at least, to social media and could keep in touch with people in the States. And it's about putting yourself in new areas. When you can't physically do it, then you just do it on Facebook. You find a community on Facebook. If you're into knitting, find a Facebook group on knitting and get involved with that. If you like writing, if you like photography, whatever. If there are other things that you're interested in too, start building up a name for yourself in other areas, and just start networking in other areas and expanding your reach in general, because it can never hurt. I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but in my experience, it certainly never hurt me to be open-minded and just to get involved in other areas that might not seem directly related to my music, but to be in things that you're passionate about, that other people are passionate about, and you share that common connection. And then they find out that you do this, and then they're like, oh, I want to hear your music. And so then they're like, oh, I would love to send this to this person. And it's not necessarily blowing things up. The other thing is too, they don't pay. They actually pay terribly. And I, have my own thing with Spotify and these streaming services, but start your own, create your own Spotify playlist with artists that you love and that and share them with people that and start creating communities where people are sharing that stuff back and forth and exposing each other to more music. Like you said, it's karma too, I think, to a degree. If you're helping other people, they're more willing to help you back too. It's not that you do it for that, but it's just,
right. And it's patience too. And
yeah.
Also just knowing that you never know what will lead to what. It's the mystery of it, which is kind of what keeps it beautiful and exciting. It's not like you have to do this and then something big will happen. Something big hardly ever happens. It's just a lot of little things that add up. Yeah. You'd be surprised when they do add up to something big eventually.
Yeah. Okay, we have another question on the screen. I just want to add one thing as a presenter, which is that musicians gain audience by performing with other musicians, because then someone else's audience is hearing you for the first time. So as much as you can get opportunities to perform on bills where there are multiple people, you're more likely to be exposed to a wider audience because you'll have their audience in addition to your audience, and the cross-pollination that both Anja and Jen were talking about. That's kind of how it happens around audiences. You get heard by someone else's audience and they get heard by your audience. So the question we have on here is from Janice Hansen. She wants to know, what's a softbox?
A softbox?
Yeah. I don't know, so I'm not going to answer.
It's a light. It's a lighting fixture, basically, for photography and for videography.
There we go. Okay.
I was like, wait, am I missing something? Is this supposed to be about music? There's a music term, softbox? Yeah, it's a light. It's basically, it's a big, well, I think Ethan just put up a picture, but it's a really big light. It's like, basically, if I turn this camera around, it looks like I'm staring at a moon right now.
And do you use a diffuser with that or not?
It has, yeah, it's got all kinds of fun stuff on it.
It's what makes the light pretty instead of blinding.
Yes.
Ethan just put up, yeah. Okay, well, we're getting near the end here. I'm going to suggest that we take 2 minutes for each of you to kind of give a closing statement, anything you think we've missed or that you want to reinforce that you've talked about today. And I want to remind the audience again that our next presentation is on November 17th. We hope you'll join us. It's kind of aimed at concert presenters, but musicians certainly will get a lot out of it as well. So let's start with Glory, who hasn't spoken for a little bit.
Okay. Well, I'm going to go way back to the beginning of this session when the topic was brought up about artists having a hard time asking for money. Go watch Amanda Palmer's TED Talk, and that might help you to feel less guilty. And the other thing I wanted to say was that going along with Jen saying, find other interests outside of music that you might connect with new fans. There's a singer-songwriter in Canada. Some of you might know this name, Leah McHenry, who does this thing called the Savvy Musicians Academy, and she's really aced how to, gain more fans through social media. She's never toured. She has 5 kids she homeschools, and she's making 6 figures. So check her out. The last thing I want to say is that sometimes new artists will come to me after they've released a new record or new music, and I wish they had come to me before it was released, because I'm now getting song searches for music that was written this year or has not been released. So think about that as well.
Sorry, guys.
Okay. I'm going to cut in for a second before we go to Steve. I said that the next panel was on November 17th, and although I'm fully in favor of time travel, I think you'd be better off on December 17th if you want to attend it, which is when it really is. So, Steve, I'm going to turn it over to you for your final comments. Oh, you got to unmute yourself, Steve.
Oh, I don't know.
Oh yeah, you're okay.
You're good. We can hear you now.
Now you're good.
Okay, good. Stay focused. Again, do your research. Research. If you're going to try to send music to music supervisors by yourself, which is difficult at best, find out what they're using. Look in the shows. Go to a site called TuneFind. It usually gives you all the songs that were used in an episode of a TV show and also in a film. Get a flavor and a sense of what they're working with and what they're using. But I'd say that try to get into the Film and TV Music Guide, find out who these people are, like ourselves, who do this kind of work, and just write short, respectful emails to people, and don't send a zillion tracks. Send just a few songs to whet our appetite to see if it's something you think we want to pursue. That's the best advice I can give.
Dan, we can't hear you.
Now you're muted, Dan.
I'm muted. I apologize. Let's go on to let's go have Glory and then Jen.
No, I already spoke.
Oh, see, I'm losing my track now because I keep muting and unmuting myself. Okay, Jen, you want to take the ball?
Sure. I would say just stay open and try new things. This is such an amazing time to sort of, to hunker down and to figure out like what works and what doesn't work and what matters and what doesn't matter. Option of touring is obviously not happening as an artist. So what are other things that you could be doing at this time? And what are other things you're interested in? And start finding ways that you can cross them in terms of combining things that you love. If you're passionate about something, you always find a way to make it work. It might take a while. Like you said, like Anja was saying, it might be step by step by step by step. It's like, an overnight success took 10 years or 20 years to get there. But this is a great opportunity to get really creative with your creativity and your art. Like Anja's flip things, which are so flippin' cool, no pun intended, but it was simply to avoid saying the other version of the F. So there's so much stuff we could all be doing that's so unique to each of us. So I just say embrace it, embrace who you are and what you love, and and just start exploring different things, and don't be afraid to try different avenues that you might not have tried before. Or even if you're a songwriter, try writing different kinds of songs. Test yourself and use this as an opportunity for exploration as well, to sort of broaden your skill set and your reach. And that community is really important, to stay in touch with people and keep the dialogue open.
I guess I should go. Yeah, everything everyone already said. One thing that just occurred to me is no one's out seeing shows or going to sporting games or going to bars. So in a way, this is like a really great time to release internet content, because there's a lot of people that are at home and they really want something new. And so I guess my sort of thing is keep putting out the content. That's what I'm doing. And don't feel shy about asking for tips. People know that this is a super hard time for performers. And we are giving them content. So there's a value to that we absolutely can ask for tips. And it's not like anyone's being forced to pay. It's more like they have the option. So yeah, I think that's all.
And if anything, this time more than any, people realize how important art is. Because how many people have relied on music and film, like binged Netflix, binged their entire music collection, like looked for new music. This is such a time for people to reestablish that love for the arts and realize the importance and value it brings.
Absolutely.
Music has helped so many people get through the pandemic. Yeah. I think, it's we're all having these emotions that we have to keep in check as we try to get through each day. And then you hear a song and it all comes out, and it's like this wonderful opportunity to connect with yourself and connect with other people and feel less alone. And you've all made us feel less alone tonight. Thank you so much, Glory, Steve, Jen, Anja. This was just wonderful, and I feel privileged to have been with you tonight. I want to remind everyone that NERFA will soon be launching our peer groups as well. So look out for that. We'll be sending out some announcements. So there'll be a musicians peer group and a presenters peer group to start out with, which will help people connect in the ways that everyone has kind of discussed a little bit tonight. And we'll be looking at doing some other things for other music professionals as we move forward. Again, thanks to everyone who showed up tonight. Thanks for all the good questions. God, it's great to be part of this, isn't it? What a wonderful organization. Have a good night, everyone. Stay well, and we'll see you on December 17th.
Thanks, Dan. Thanks, NERFA. And thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Good night.
Good night.
Bye.
Bye.
Wasted years won't waste another instant. I fed my fears, things that haven't been yet. Hope don't mean you sit there just waiting for the changes. It's fighting for the long shot. Getting in the trenches, starting now, starting now. All I own is borrowed from my children. I'll leave this world more bright than when it came in. So starting with the next breath, I'll dig a little deeper, live a little kinder, and love a little sweeter. Starting now. Starting now. starting now.
Take a piece of the limelight, own your place on the stage. Let your colors stay true, baby. Everybody's got their own line. Go ahead and let it shine bright. Own your piece on the page. You got a story to tell, only you can tell it. Got a life to live, only you can live it. Got a lot to give, only you can give it. Let your colors shine. Let your light ignite the world. Let your colors shine. Well, there'll be days of rain, baby. Fear will chase you like a ghost. Take away what you love the most, but only if you let it. There is only one you, baby, full of promise and mystery. Make your mark on history and never regret it. Oh, you got a story to tell, only you can tell it. Got a life to live, only you can live it. Got a lot to give, only you can give it. Let your color shine. Let your light ignite the world. White as a promise, blue as an ocean, red as the sun that sets on the day. Green as a garden, gold as devotion. Decorate every word you say. So take a brush in hand and paint your work of art. Give the world a taste of your magic. Color it with your own hand. Let your color shine. Oh, let your color shine. Let them shine. Let them shine. Well, you got a story to tell, only you can tell it. Got a lot to live, only you can live it. Got a lot to give, only you can give it. Let your color shine. Let your light ignite the world. Yeah. Let your color shine. Let your color shine. Let them shine. Oh, let them shine. Yeah, let them shine. Let them shine.
I mean, doesn't everybody go hiking this way?
That's great.